Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. Oh, good. We got a few more coming in. Today's topic is on education, and I often talk about education in the context of the purpose of Polestar because it is the most universal way to pick up development, growth, evolution, expansion, which are just key things for a successful human life and a fulfilled human life. And so this need to grow, we all have and we all share. And it doesn't matter what your beliefs are or what your religion is. We all have this innate desire to expand, to continue to grow, and so I love picking it up by this string because it includes everyone. There's nobody who's really outside of this very basic human need, and today we've invited a few of our favorite educators to share with us today, and I really want to start by saying that the theme of education, the idea of the community is to have the theme of education and ongoing personal development permeate the community. It never stops. It starts when you're born, of course, but it really never stops. At every phase of life, we're learning something essential, something important, something we came for, something that's going to help us fulfill ourselves. And so I am not I do not consider myself a classroom educator. I did try it one year, some of you know, and I wouldn't say I exactly bombed. They did want me back, which was very flattering. But well, actually, the story there was that at the time I was teaching at the Ananda School, and it was actually a great situation for me. I had a wonderful mentor teacher, Anusha, and a small classroom, 12 students. So it was actually ideal, and I learned a lot about it. But at the end of which, I was still interested in education and still interested in teaching. But that was the point at which I was offered the opportunity to become the village manager at Ananda. And really, in my desire to be of service, especially to young people, but students of all ages, I realized I would have way more opportunity for that in the role of village manager than I would teaching 12 students. And so really, most of you have probably heard it in my elevator speech about Polestar, but I often say to somebody I've got who wants to know in 2 sentences what we're doing, I basically say our central thing is about the power of community in education, that we want to leverage the power of community in education. And so I have a lot more to say on this topic, but I'll probably have times to talk about it more. And I really want to hear from other voices today. And so we have some of our favorite educators here today, and would like you to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us your experience and what you're doing now, and maybe just share a little bit about, and of course the topic is, how can we idealize education in an intentional community? We have an incredible opportunity to design it into the fabric of the lifestyle. And what do you educators see in that opportunity? What strikes you as the things to be thinking about, the things to be talking about and envisioning for that incredible opportunity? All right, who would like to go first? I'm looking at Kashama or Susan in the right-hand part of my screen. Would one of you like to start?
Okay, so hi everybody. I think I know most of us on the call, which is really fun. So I grew up at Ananda Village, have known Michael and Anne, or they've known me since I was a munchkin. Currently, I live in the Bay Area in California, and I'm the director of the Living Wisdom High School program here. We're a transitional kindergarten through 12th grade school, and I help facilitate the upper grades. Prior to that, I was teaching in our lower school, mostly first and second grade. And most of my training and background is through the lens of Education for Life, which is inspired by Paramhansa Yogananda and was birthed through Swami Kriyananda and Ananda Village. But really, Education for Life is a consciousness-based approach to soul development, and it's taken through the lens, often of working with students in the context of a school. But if you expand that out, just as Michael was talking about, it's really the school of life, and every experience and opportunity is part of that growth. Michael, you asked a huge and wonderful question, and I think I need to sit with it as we have the conversation. But one of the things that's really foremost in my mind as we're coming out of the year and a half of very fractured connection is the need for community within schools. And I think we'll see a trend as we go forward that schools will become somehow smaller and more connection based, and probably a lot more mentorship based between both peers and also teachers and students. I really appreciate and value all of the digital technology that we have. And I'm also very aware that there's absolutely zero replacement for being with someone. And I'm also acutely aware of the need for nature and having, if we're looking at building a school or a learning space, I would really encourage the planning to have a lot of just weaving together with the natural world and making sure that they're not separate. So I guess I will leave it at that for now.
Kshama, let me just ask you one question, because it has been on my mind, because you work with a lot of teenagers right now. And as I see the world, in the last several years, especially, and the kind of modeling that's going on with our leaders, and the kind of uncivil, emotionally immature behavior with a lot of adults these days. What are you seeing going on with young people in terms of coping with that, and just what's the perspective that them sort of growing up in the world the way it is today, what is that like for them?
That's a good question. So the students that I work with primarily, they come to us in one of kind of two forms. Either they came to Living Wisdom early and have had an immersive experience in this approach to education, and probably have fairly conscientious or conscious families also, or they've come later on in their teenage years because something has gone amiss and they're needing a course correction, and so they're looking for something different. And the students that come in later, I think I see a lot more of a jaded perspective on life, more cynical, much more withdrawn, emotionally, socially. Just they feel protective, defensive, and it usually takes a while. Sometimes it's a shorter while of weeks or months, and sometimes it's years of peeling back a lot of the hurt or the damage that's happened. I think there's a normalization that's happening societally with a lot of what we're exposed to, and kind of giving the impression to young people that it's okay and it's normal to treat people the way that we do, or or that we can see sometimes. Video games, I think, play a big role in how they socialize and connect, and that's a big topic for debate, but I personally don't see a whole lot of benefit or blessing that comes from a lot of that kind of screen time and engagement. But I also see a level of resiliency in our young people. And so this year we're a small program right now, and we were able to offer on-site learning for most of the students who wanted it throughout the year. And many of them took advantage of it, and some of them didn't. But by the end of the year, we're able to host an in-person 5-day camping trip. And it's amazing how much trust and friendship and openness comes about within, minutes to the first day or two of being together in that kind of a space. And I think most of our young people don't have experience with what that is. And it comes with us holding them to a very high standard in how they relate to each other and the kinds of activities that we participate in. But they just start to shine when they know that they're held in a safe space, and that they can really trust in that, and have fun and push the limits in healthy ways, and go big, but in a positive way. So.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay, Susan, how about you?
Well, I've been in Montessori for about 45 years. I entered because I've always had a philosophical view of the world rather than religious or physiological. Everything to me had a meaning and a purpose, and I would always investigate. And around the age of 11, I questioned my parents on the Catholic religion and why we were doing what we were doing, and headed into that so much that they tried to send me to a convent and have me really, indoctrinated. But I argued with the priests and the nuns, and so I've always entered life with, there is a reason why we're here. And I never found it in my education, Catholic education. I kept searching. I read every philosopher. In fact, the Out of the Labyrinth was a review of the book that I just read, for Education for Life, was a review of all the philosophers and philosophies that I studied. I taught philosophy at the graduate level. Then when I had children, I decided to investigate educational practices in Montessori. My mother had taught Montessori for special education, and it was big in California. So I went and watched a classroom, and the children moved with such an inner direction towards a box on the shelf, or worked through a material with such involvement that you wouldn't even take them away or distract them with noise or walking by. They just were so involved, and it was a material, maybe of sensorial material, building or grading colors, but some inner teacher was directing them. So I decided to search for a teacher who could teach me, and so I found, and I've always had this drop in my lap, just that there's the right thing at the right time. And this woman, Ursula Thrush, was trained by Mario Montessori. And he's the son of Maria Montessori. She was already passed away. So this woman taught us all the materials for a year for the preschool level. And then we had a year of the spiritual nature of the child. And that was just the 3 to 6 year old level. So then I went on to, I was hooked. That was it. It meant so much to me that then I went on to the 6 to 9, the 9 to 12, the 12 to 18. I spent 8 years in the study of the psychology, philosophy, spirituality, and physiology of the child and the stages of development for each level. And each one is precious, and each one has to be honored and guided and not taught, but given the tools so that they can teach themselves. And that's the basis of the Montessori. And then when I was teaching teachers for Ursula and teaching in the classroom, I never gave that up. I was involved with a woman named Dr. Elizabeth Kaspari, who was taught by Maria Montessori. She was 96 when she came to my school and stayed there for 3 years. And so the interaction of the three of us, my teacher Ursula and Dr. Kaspari and myself as the student, I was able to really feel the spiritual nature developing. And it has never stopped a single minute for me every day. I grow more from involvement with the children. So today, I'm here in Florida visiting my son for the first time in 2 years and my granddaughter. So I am in heaven again. But I work for the Montessori schools in Kansas, where I'm living in Wichita, Kansas, which are wonderful schools. I'm teaching teachers. I also work for the state of Kansas, which is now going to have the state school Montessori based. And the people who are administrating it and the superintendent of schools is wonderful. And we've been working on it for 5.5 years, and it will be fully implemented next year. And then my job will be done. And so I am looking for the next step. And the community sounds like a wonderful place. And I think that there are many levels that the children can succeed in a community. And Michael, you were the best model for that when you brought teenagers in trouble to Hawaii right after I had taught Abram. You guys left, and that was your mission, and you did it, and you did it very successfully. And I'm sure you hear from those students still as adults. It's changed their lives. And I was talking about you yesterday to a man on the beach who happened to say we were chatting, and he was a part of the Yogananda community back in the 70s. And he said he then got into alcoholism and then had to go into AA. He said, but he wished he'd had some guide from youth towards his inner spirit, because I guess in AA they follow the inner steps to get there. And he says, if I would have had that as a child. And I talked to him about Montessori, and he was enlivened. We both felt that was perfect timing for both of us. So I think there's always evolving the mission that you're on. I think you have those drops from heaven come in, and you soak them in, and you help and assist and evolve the cosmos at the same time you're evolving yourself. So that means nature, and it means the understanding of your abilities, your strengths, and your weaknesses, so that you know that you can work on those weaknesses and you can apply your strengths. So that's Montessori. That's the developing
Beautiful.
education.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
That's a little segue into something I wanted to share too, which is the reason we have picked up the power of community and education is because, and this is one of my gripes about modern education, especially in public schools, much less so in private, of course, smaller classes and more personal instruction, et cetera. But there are many people along our path of life that teach us. And just like this guy you were talking to. And if we have access to those people, and to me, that is the magic of community. And you put hopefully conscious people, well-intentioned people together, and with adults and children and all ages, And the magic is that the ones who really need to learn from each other find each other, and they make a connection. And people you would, and it's so important for both sides, for the younger and the older, to make those kinds of connections, because it enlivens tremendously life for all sides. But my experience has been is when school is such a separate event from life, like it's something outside of life. And this is my big rant about education. You it's like a 9 to 4 event, and it's not really for my liking, involved in what life presents to us every day, and especially the access to the people and the potential mentors and the potential friends that you can cultivate and develop of all ages. And so for me, this is the big magic of community, is giving everyone, but young people especially, access to conscious adults who make friendships, make connections, become their mentors and friends, and people you would never ever find in a classroom, have a tremendous amount to teach young people, for example. And so the beauty of community, which I really want our community to hold a school, and to me, the power of the school is the power of the community. It's really, in my mind, the success of the school is based on how successful a community it becomes, because you're modeling all those things. You're modeling relationships. You're modeling attitudes. And this is not easy to do for a single teacher and 20 students, like is normal in public school, or more, 30, whatever. So, and in my one brief year of actually teaching in a classroom, it was 1,000% better and I recruited people to help me because I was at sea mostly. But if I had another teacher or friend who would go on the adventure or do the whatever we were doing with me, the ability to transmit something of value to the students was magnified 1,000-fold. And so this is a real theme for me in education and the intention of the community. And I'll use Anne as an example, who you will never find at the front of a classroom, but regularly mentored all kinds of students, but especially younger women who came through Polestar. And many of them included, even, in our time years ago at Ananda, many of them do keep in touch with her over these many years. So I just think those connections, like this guy was saying on the beach, are so important. I look at my youth and the few people I saw that really and that connected with me, that showed me a way to be, were an example of a way to be. That was like food, and without those, just would have been a very, very different thing. So I think that is, a very powerful, and in my mind, the biggest opportunity with a school in an intentional community is the opportunity of integration, that the adventure of life is unfolding for everybody, and Susan, I grew up Catholic also, recovering Catholics, they call us, but bless their souls, they, and so, I often say, when I was young, I didn't know adults were people, I didn't, It's like they were some other species of individual that exerted control and power over, So anyway, I just think it's for people to connect via community of all ages is to me a big part of the magic and the beauty of it, and all the growth and development that happens there. It's impossible to orchestrate. It's not in a system or a book. It's life unfolding, and life is, whatever's happening is exactly where the lessons are. You don't have to go seeking them. They're right at your front door. So Kishama, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
I just wanted to echo and emphasize the truth of what you're talking about. I'm sitting here in a room with you and Anne and Hunter and Carrie Ann, who have all been mentors over the years, and how powerful that presence has been. There are a lot of, and I'll just leave this as a seed thought, but when the time comes when the school is unfolding and more older young people are needing to be served, there are some incredible networks that are popping up that are dramatically shifting how high school education can happen. And we're working with an organization called the Mastery Transcript Consortium, and they're working on designing a mastery-based learning transcript that is gradeless and that allows a student to work with their school to design mastery credits that they earn, and they can demonstrate the depth of learning, and you can meet certain goals and objectives, but it allows you to much more easily take the learning out of the classroom and put it into internships and job experiences or mentorship experiences, and really integrate it beyond the 9 to 3 school day and the official teacher. There are a lot of these movements that are in the works that I think we can tap into and serve and draw from.
No, and I was very, I went to a gathering the Kashama hosted a few weeks ago with Education for Life teachers. It was very inspiring, actually. And somebody trotted out the Google list of qualities they're looking for in employees. They're what they hire for, and there's about 7 or 8 things, none of which had to do with degree or accomplishments, or they were all those sort of intangible things, the things you learn in community. The emotional intelligence, the interpersonal intelligence, the teamwork, all those things, and it is my experience that everyone is coming around to this understanding of a more holistic development, and a deeper understanding of the purpose of education, and you do see it everywhere. So that is very encouraging, but yeah, the unique opportunity in an intentional community is you can basically hit that out of the park, and you've got so many people who are present for each other. That is like the key, because that's the environment our kids feed off of, and when people model deep friendship with each other, trust with each other, connection with each other, why should our kids settle for anything less than that as they grow up? They know it's possible. They know it's, the way life can be, and that they can make it that way by how they live. So I see that Carrie Ann is here. You're not on video, but if you have anything you would like to add to this conversation. I realized as I went through a long list of favorite there she is, of educators, I realized a number of them are artists. And Carrie Ann is one. And
yeah, I can totally share. I'm not on video because I'm painting.
Okay.
It helps me be on Zoom. Yeah, actually, I taught creativity and art to kids and teens for about 20 years at the Ananda Village School. And And then I was on the board at the school for a super long time. And then I have two daughters who grew up here. One of them works with Kashama very closely. Anyway, so my passion and the way, if I can help, wouldn't be teaching kids, 'cause I'm kind of done with that. But I teach adults now. I've taught adults for many years too, but so often I get the adults and they're traumatized by that art teacher in second grade or whatever. So I learned so much and made up so much of my own stuff or downloads I would get about how to work with kids with art and creativity, and how it's kind of like their magic wand for life, and how to bring it into all of their topics in school and their approaches. And so my basic, let's see how quickly I can describe it. I'm holding space for them to be creative. I don't tell them how to draw a tree or an owl until about pretty long time. I mean, we do fun things, but it's things like, okay, if you could live anywhere in the world and you could make up a house, total fantasy house, I want you to draw it. So they're drawing roller coasters and waterfalls and dungeons. And then the boys have got a lot of like torture rooms became popular. Torture room next to the donut room. And it was and sort of like that's my favorite. And it's just like, it's all good. We don't want rainbows and fairies and waterfalls. And then girls, of course, started doing that stuff too, which is just super important, to do whatever it is they need to do and not be worried about whether it's pretty or means anything about them. I think the more expression they can have, the more they're sorting out their emotional stuff. So I did all kinds of, we travel on a planet and you've got a camera and you see this person walking a dog. Sometimes I would make it up as I was speaking. Oh my God, that's not a person. Wait, that's not a dog. What is it? And then they had to draw it, or they go swimming underneath at the planet in the water, and wait, those aren't fish. So then they would draw what they saw underwater. And I did all kinds of things like this. And then about 5th grade, sometimes younger, they start to go, well, how do I draw a person? Or by then it depends on the kid, but then you teach them, well, the head is 1/7 of the body, or the eyes are actually halfway in the middle of the head. But if you teach it to them too young, they decide really quickly that they're not good artists and they're not creative, etc., which is so detrimental to their confidence in life. So that's my big passion. And I have taught some teachers here and there about how to approach it. And then there's certain teachers I've learned from. Michelle Cassou is my favorite, about how to approach children. So that would be a way I could maybe help, Michael. And when you guys get this going, I could meet with a teacher who teaches art, or even just the teachers of like, it's really, if they get coloring books out, or, really getting, I don't know, you just want to keep it really free and flowing. And you can do very particular projects as well. Definitely. But it's just tricky how it's held. And in high school, what I did was, junior high and high school, I'd say, okay, go home and your homework is to pick 10 images from Pinterest that you just love, that art images. And then they would do that every week and create this huge file of their favorite art. And then they would start to catch on what they liked. And then I would say, well, do you want to try one? And so then they felt empowered to do what they love. And a lot of them became incredibly good at it. I don't know if you've seen Kamala Roberts' art, but she was my student for many years and she's crazy good. And a few others have become very good. And Isabel's going to art school. Maybe I told you that. That's my younger daughter, but which is obvious. She would go to an art school, but she's just super passionate about art. So anyway, that would be my way of why I entered the call, because I just thought, if you guys need support in that way, I would be happy to help.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
No, that is beautiful. And that reminded me of, there again, talking about the structure of school in our society. Where in life do you get in one room with, 20, 30 people who are exactly the same age, and all doing the same, you know what I mean? It's just like, and I just think how brutal high school was, I mean, it just never happens in life ever, so this idea that everybody's different and everybody, the tendency to compare yourself is so acute at that age. And then you're trying to get them to be creative, and it's
Right.
like, boy, that's a pretty steep climb
Yeah.
for most people. And
Yeah, you just
so
really work with how they are. Like one boy in fourth grade, these two boys always wanted to make mazes. Actually, Nate was one of them, and they just were obsessed with mazes. So I, very often I'd be like, okay, I want you guys to work on a maze. Okay, I want you to really make it detailed and then show it to me. So then they would be. You have to follow their passion. And the other topic that I worked with for a number of years is Spirit Warriors, which was after school, but it was about girls' empowerment in very creative ways. Basically 8, 9, 10, and then as I got older, about 12, 13, and then things shifted. But anyway, that was also very creative. They'd make shields, for example, to represent their boundaries and their inner strength. And then they decorate these shields according to what helps them feel strong. That's just one example. But anyway, that's the other topic I could share with teachers as well.
thank you. Yeah, and all of you who have spoken are great examples to me of people I'd want my kids to meet and connect with and see have that sort of possibility of a way to be. And so it's just the teaching that's going on is just so deep, and it's beyond the form. It's just it's energetic. And so I read the interesting Joseph Campbell quote recently, when something like, the biggest problem a young person has is finding models. Oh gosh, I remember. It's basically saying finding models of people who present possibilities. So which is kind of hitting the nail on the head in what I'm talking about in the power of community, because you need a lot of different possibilities to look at how people are in the world, men and women, and just to try them on and open your sense of potential, for your own self. And so I just, for me, I was so grateful to have my children grow up in an environment where they had access to people who were, really gave them a lot. And that's really something I would hold as a primary value and goal for this community, is that we are accessible to our kids, and we make time for them, we hold space for them, we celebrate them, and I think that's a real key and powerful part of it. All right, who else is here that would like to speak up and share something or anything about what we've covered so far? We can all watch Carrie Ann paint now. That's good. Supriya, please. Yes.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So I've actually done the gamut in terms of teaching. I taught for many years. Now consider myself semi-retired, though I'm teaching English to adults now online. But I've taught in the public school, I taught in a Montessori school, and I taught EFL. So I've done a little bit of it all. And of course, after having taught in EFL, which was up until I had 3 boys, 2 4th graders and a 6th grader, and I called them my 3 sons. It was quite an interesting dynamic. But of course, I loved it, and I'd wanted it to continue, but unfortunately, there wasn't enough enrollment, so that position ended after 1 year. My favorite part about that, Michael, you were talking about the importance of like real life experiences. Well, Navriti put me to task to go on a field trip a week, if you can believe that. I mean, that was quite a major assignment for me, but it was incredible because, we explored everything from museums to different parks to a boat ride in Puget Sound, and you get the idea. And to a hike in the mountains where we got snowed on. I mean, it was fantastic. And, I could tell that the whole dynamic between the three boys changed when we were on these excursions. There was definitely a stronger bonding that went on, and they were just blown away, by these experiences that were just quite amazing. By contrast, the public school system, I mean, quite honestly, I am of the opinion the whole thing is going to crash and burn, that it's just simply not sustainable. It's kind of like the environment and global warming. It's like something drastic has to shift because it's so dysfunctional that it just simply can't continue. I mean, the kids don't want to be there. The teachers are put to task to have the kids performing to the test, and it's a complete nightmare. And I had a kid actually say, and these were 10-year-olds, by the way, 5th grade, toward the end of one school year, my second to last year teaching in the public school. I can't even remember what we were discussing, but I think I was asking him, what is your plan for summer? What do you look forward to about summer coming? And one boy said, getting out of prison, because this school is like a prison. And all of the kids, like, they gave him a standing ovation, if you can believe that. I mean, they were applauding, they were cheering. Of course, me as the teacher, I'm absolutely devastated. And that's when, the thought was already brewing to get the heck out of teaching public education. But, that was one of the last straws, we could say. But, how sad, right? I mean, how utterly tragic that this is actually how these kids feel. Like, they're in prison, they absolutely don't want to be there. I so feel for the teachers when they have to, go back into the classroom next school year. I can't even begin to imagine. So I had this vision, Michael, that, what you're creating, and hopefully what we're all creating with the community in Colorado, will catch on. And, the world will hopefully sit up and take notice and see that that's, it's the only model that makes sense. So there's EFL, or, by the way, Montessori, I think, is phenomenal. And I'm convinced, I don't know if this is really true, but I'm convinced that Swami took a lot of Maria Montessori's principles and methodologies when he created EFL, because there's so many aspects that are, that are in common, that parallel. It's really phenomenal. So, I mean, that's something that gets me excited. I would love to help get that started in whatever way possible, because it's the only thing that makes sense. And I could totally see a hybrid of like Montessori and EFL, even more so than Swami created. So there's my 2 cents.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Supriya. All right. Anyone else who's dying to put in their 2 cents? Or any closing thoughts from Susan or Kashama? And then I've got a new plan to share. I wanted the site plan continues to evolve and just gets better and better. We're super excited about it. So I will share that for the last few minutes of our meeting. But Susan or Kashama, do either of you have anything you'd like to respond to or close with?
I just want to say that it's so exciting now that COVID has been, run through, but it presented a whole new world to me that opened up ideas and creativity from so many people I knew, that it needed to be done to get to that point. So I never saw the pandemic as, this awful, plague, or, it certainly was devastating to so many people and families, and still is. But there was a meaningful result for people to see what the value of life, of love, of happiness, of joy is. And if anything else, that is where we are from this. And that really opens to me that there's a lot of promise. There is not a downward spiral. There is a lot of promise. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Beautiful. And I couldn't agree more. And it really comes down to a group of conscious, well-intentioned people learning how to cooperate. And because there's nothing we can't do if we learn how to cooperate. I mean, we are just incredibly powerful beings when we work together, you know. So I think there's all kinds of potential for this this kind of an enterprise to be a creative force in education and many other fields of endeavor. So, all right. Well, thank you everyone for being here today and sharing on this topic. Lots to think about, and I'm gonna see if Vina can bring up the plan, and I can share that with you. The first thing I'm gonna say is that you may have, nobody ever asked, which I was glad they didn't, previous to today, where's the school? and because we, until a few weeks ago, we hadn't actually broached this topic with Dennis and Bailey. Oh, can they see my cursor, Vina, or just yours, probably? Okay, we'll go down to Dennis and Bailey's property, because the hope is one day Dennis and Bailey will sell that house to the community and move into one of the new units, and that could become the school. And it's actually it's an old farmhouse. As Dennis pointed out, it's been a school because they have had people they've taught over many decades. And actually there's so much that's perfect about the location. It's ridiculous. It's Elizabeth Street is a much busier street, which is below there. Yeah, going along there. And so you need good access for a school. And then it's right across the green and gardens of the whole community. So it's actually on the campus, but also has its own, you know, little bit of a space to do its own thing. So it's actually, it was one of our architects, designers, Alex, who channeled that, and everybody thought, oh, bingo, you know, that makes perfect sense. Otherwise, and you'll see a few changes in this version. And believe me, this is a work in progress. But one of them is the temple has been placed in a new location there. And the argument that has put it there is the pattern that you see in a European village, where the temple is the center of activity, the church. You can see it from the street. You can, you know, the bell rings, people go and participate in whatever it is. And so I thought there was a good argument there for that. And now we have, we're looking at more of a multi-purpose function, building function down on the green. If you go down, Vina, with your cursor, keep going, down, 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 left, left, there, right there. So that we're envisioning possibly, this is pretty fluid at this point, but we actually like it so far. So in that whole sort of gatherings of buildings, you have the community dining hall and kitchen, you have the temple, you have multi-purpose, you have elder housing, you have you know, residences, and within all that, you have a lot of community spaces. You have meeting rooms, you have potential classrooms, You probably got a mail room. And you know, it wouldn't be hard to imagine that out of those spaces, those gathering places, school spaces were also available. For example, the whole upstairs of the dining hall could arguably be one of those spaces, you know. And there's one school of thought that says a school should be a service organization, that the purpose of school should be to understand community needs, study them, and seek to fulfill them. And what a great way to create a theme for your school. And so, you know, I could easily see a small high school, Kashama, for example, functioning right sort of in the downtown area and be integrating into the life of the community and playing a role in that, and finding all those connections with people who have various skills and life experiences, who live there and are doing all kinds of interesting things, growing food and figuring out power systems and alternative forms of energy and transportation. And it's just you know, a culture of learning and growing, you know, that is intentional and cultivated, no pun intended. So and then otherwise, you know, this is a compact urban environment. I decided it's kind of like co-housing meets the new urbanism. And, you know, we have the potential, if you go sort of center right, Vina, that is a interesting development there. And because it's kind of a classic co-housing kind of design. And this community could have a micro community within it that was part of it. You know, there might be a group of people who had a particular focus or flavor or connection that wanted to intentionally create that. And you know, we need to make this thing practical. It's got to pencil out and all that. And so we're working hard to not be overly idealistic, but keep the vision of what we really want to do. And we really do want to support people who want to live together cooperatively, intentionally, you know, with that in mind. And so anyway, there's opportunities within this plan for people to have a extended family sort of development, a co-housing development, various cooperative lifestyles, lots to you know, explore here. And I think not the least of which is the fact that these ways of living more intentionally together, the trail has been blazed, you know, by many before us, but we can take a lot of those legal forms, financial forms, to a whole new level through this development. And then you'll see at the top of the plan, you probably saw that before, that hasn't changed much. We have single family houses. So if you're, you know, if that's kind of what works for you, and it is the most easily, least complicated, saleable product we can have. So there's certain need for it just on that level. And we are told by our realtors and builders who we're networking with there, who are just drooling over these lots and projects. They just, because it's really a unique location, and there isn't many like it left in Fort Collins, you know. So anyway, just wanted you to see the latest and a couple of shifts. We learned a lot. The design flow has been very, very you know, evolutionary, and every step has been like we've discovered things. We're learning new things. One thing you'll see is charging stations. In 10 years, who's not going to have an electric car? What to speak of 20, you know? So we got to figure that out. We really want to tend towards what they call net zero energy building, which is to, and we have the great opportunity to do it here. We've got, well, not only are we growing food, but we have a tremendous solar site. And if we do it properly, there's every opportunity to make this super energy efficient, even net zero energy development. So a lot of great things about it are coming together, and we're to the place on this plan. We're settled enough with the broad brushstrokes that we are now getting ready to interface with the city more. We've been all along the way, actually, but more formally now. So lots more evolution to come, but I thought it would be fun for everyone to just see where we stand so far. So with that, how are we doing on time? We're gonna it's 2:01. I did go on. So we're gonna try to wrap up, and I think we have Rich here is gonna lead a song or a chant or something. And is he coming in here? All right, I'm gonna move this back, and I think we're gonna close with a song. Yay, Rich. Let me put this up. Why don't you sit down?
Maybe we can all stay. I guess we gotta get on the same.
Oh, we gotta get on the sofa. Are you coming, Bina? Let me move it back a little bit. I don't need a nuke, do I?
I don't think we're tuned.
Okay.
Just do a Malama.
Okay.
You want to say the words, Michael?
Okay, I will. So this is I mentioned earlier that we are really at the beginning of the end in Polestar. Hope you can hear me. We expect to be in escrow on the property next week. And Vina departs the islands on Wednesday, I believe. Ann and I have tickets for in about 3 weeks. And the dominoes are starting to tumble of Fearon and Brandon, who have been the interns here, stellar young interns. They have plans for early July, so here we go. And so anyway, kind of an amazing time for us. And this song has been a kind of a mainstay from the very beginning. It's a Hawaiian chant, and it goes like this. You can if you mute, no offense intended, but if you mute, you're welcome to sing along. Doesn't really work with the time lag. E malama I ka heau. E malama I ka heau. That's repeated. And then the third time you say E malama pono I ka heau. And a very liberal English translation goes, and we'll sing the English too. Earth and sky, sea and stone, hold this land in sacredness. All right, Rich, hit it.